Hello and welcome to the Outdoorsy Educator podcast, where learning gets a breath of fresh air. I'm your host Alasdair, and each week I talk with people from all walks of life to explore how education, the outdoors, and real-world experiences shape who we are. From classrooms to campfires, trails to town halls, we dig into the lessons that move us, challenge us, stick with us, and can make the world a better place. And on this very special edition of the Outdoorsy Educator podcast, we have our very first returning guest, Derek Lugo. Derek, how are you today?
Hey, I'm your very first returning guest.
You
That's
are our
awesome.
first returning guest. What an honor, eh?
Yeah, man. I love it.
Well, we're releasing this on a special day as well. Instead of usually releasing the episode on Mondays, we are releasing it on Tuesday, February 3rd, a very special day in the life of Derek Lugo. Derek, tell us why this is a special day for you.
Oh man, this is the book release day of my second book, A Fabulous Thru Hike.
So many of you who are listening will either have heard Derek's previous podcast with me, another podcast, or read his book, The Unlikely Thru Hiker. And this, while it's not necessarily a sequel, it follows a similar genre. Why don't you tell us a little bit about this book?
Yeah, this follows Mr. Fabulous's new adventure. So this is 10 years after my thru hike of the Appalachian Trail. And it goes into new territory, the Continental Divide Trail, where it's one of the harder of the three main trails. The three main trails being the Appalachian Trail, the Pacific Crest Trail, and the Continental Divide Trail. So it's 3,100 miles of the trail, deserts, high peaks, totally different terrain that I've ever done. I've never hiked in the desert, things like that. So yeah, it's like, do I still have it? And how do I mess this up and then try to fix it?
I love that. And I don't know the numbers, but just knowing about hiking in the outdoor worlds, I'm going to assume that this is the least hiked of the Triple Crown trails.
It is.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, when people talk to me about hiking and camping, everyone knows the AT and everyone knows the PCT, but the Continental Divide Trail, people, what is that? Where does that go to and from? It still seems to be a little bit of a mystery.
Yeah, and I'm really excited about this book because there aren't many books out there about the Continental Divide Trail. And when I finished the trail and the experience that I had, I was very, very excited about just diving in and not just writing about my experience, but also writing about the trail. My a few editors from my new publisher said, let's make the trail a character, which I had already started doing it, but I went even deeper and just got people to learn and understand and follow me along this trail that not many people actually travel through.
Yeah, that's something that I really enjoyed about your first book, The Unlikely Thru Hiker, was there's loads of guidebooks out there on the AT, and that wasn't it, which I really appreciated. Of course, you talk about the trail, but it was much more about your personal journey on it,
Yeah,
which I really enjoyed.
yeah, and in a way, the first book was easy because I didn't anticipate anything. I just wanted to share my story about the Appalachian Trail. So I was like, no one's gonna hopefully judge my book, and if they do, who cares? There's so many out there. Turned out to be, it was a success, and I'm thankful for that. But this one was a bit tricky because I wanted to make sure if there aren't many books out there, I want it to be a really good one, and I did care how if people were getting something out of it. And when I say something out of it, it's either good stories, learning about the trail, and hopefully being inspired to go out there and either do the trail or do something out of the ordinary.
I love that. I'd love to ask you about, we've talked about your first book a little bit, and obviously we want to focus on the book that's coming out today. How did the writing process vary from the first book to the second?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the first book, I I had so much time with the first book. No one knew who I was. I didn't have to go and I didn't have any crazy responsibilities. So I just took all day writing. I get up in the morning and I decided I would write a certain amount of words, started with like 500 and 1,000 and 1,500 words a day. And I wouldn't stop till I got to that word count. With the second book, I couldn't do that because when I got off the trail, I had to quickly get back to. I focused on teaching about the outdoors, so I would do talks. I had small writing projects I was doing, so I couldn't just get back and take more time off and just focus on writing. So I decided I was going to just do time. So every morning I'd get up, and when I first started, it was like maybe 20 minutes, 30 minutes of writing. And then I move on. And then within a few weeks, it ended up being like the whole morning I was writing. So I would write from, whatever, 6, 7 till 10, 11, 12. But it took a while to get to that point. So the beginning was word count. Second time was really time. I make sure that if I'm going to write up to this point, and then as long as I felt like I did something that day, then I knew I was moving forward with the story.
You've really touched it. I love this. You've really touched on the next question I wanted to ask you. And I was thinking a lot about expectations. When you wrote this first book, it sounds like there wasn't a lot of expectations placed on yourself or from outside sources. But I'm
No.
imagining that may have shifted a little bit this time. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, as soon as I got off the trail, two things people were asking me: when are you doing the Pacific Crest Trail,
Right?
and when's the book coming out for the Continental Divide Trail that I just finished? And some people think you just finish and within a week you got a book written. No,
Right.
no, I don't know if people really think that, but it takes a while. So with this one, I knew I had to. The first book, again, I didn't have. No one was really anticipating anything from me, and I also didn't have a publisher. No one knew who I was. I didn't have a writing resume. So it took a year and a half, 2 years to write the book, the manuscript, and then a few more years to find a publisher, and then another year to get it published because it takes a while, even if you have a publisher. But this time around, I knew that it had to be a bit faster. I had to cut that
Hmm.
time. I mean, I finished the trail in 2012, the AT, and then it got the book, The Unlikely Thru Hiker, was published 7 years later, and I didn't want that to happen again. So
Right.
this time around, I thru hiked the Continental Divide Trail in 22, finished the book in 23, and had a publisher by 24. So it still took some time. I had it published by 24, but it took about a year and a half to actually get it published. So
Right.
that was the difference.
That's the difference. I think a lot about this. A friend of mine years ago once told me that everybody has a book in them. Not that everyone should publish it or should follow it, but everyone has a really good story to share with the world. And I've got no immediate goals of doing that, but maybe one day. But I was thinking about this. When did you consider yourself or call yourself for the very first time an author?
Oh, when I got published, I mean,
That was the moment.
yeah, I would always say I'm a big believer that some people are afraid to say they're a writer, and I think if even if you write your journal, you're a writer. That doesn't matter. Getting published is different. You become an author. And when my first book got published, I became an author. Before that, I was writing short stories, manuscripts that I finished, some I didn't finish, poems, bad poems, you know,
Right?
um, but nothing that I ever published until The Unlikely Thru Hiker. So that was the first time when I said, "Oh, okay, I reached that goal. What's next?" So I knew I wanted to continue writing, getting published, and just wanted to reach more people. So never satisfied with just one goal. Got to keep going and try to, with anything, better myself.
Absolutely. Well, I don't want to give too much away about the book, but I want to dip our toes into some specifics, of course, whet the appetite so, people
Yeah,
know
yeah, of
what
course.
it's a bit more about. I was wondering if there was any part of this book that you almost left out, And what did you or why did you decide to keep it in?
Good one.
There may not be, of course, but I just thought there may be.
There, you know what? I almost kept out. There was a part with a hiker that this is my story, so I can't really didn't want to dive into another hiker's experience. But when that experience uh, is mixed with mine, I wanted to share some of it. And it was
Hmm.
I felt it was impactful for myself and for that hiker. And I thought for the readers, if I did share a bit of that hiker's experience um, and not giving it away, the main, there's like three other main characters, I call them hikers in the
Yeah.
story. And in my Continental Divide Trail story. And Dan is his name, aka Buck Wild, and he was on the trail for many different reasons. I won't get into it; it's in the book, but it was a little confusing for me to understand because I wanted the best for him, and
Hmm.
he was a little hard headed and just couldn't figure certain things out. But you got to let people hike their own hike, as they say, right? So,
Right.
but I would like to think that at the end, you know, we go through, we're doing this amazing thing on the trail and we're trying to learn or grow or something, get something out of it for ourselves for the through hike. And I think he did by the end. And I love, and I won't share the end of it, but there's something that it wraps up. And I'm very grateful that he allowed me to share some of his story of his through hike. And because again, I wanted people, because I learned from it, and I wanted others to learn from it as well.
I love that, and I love that. And this, your first two books now, is it's not just about you. I love that your story is intertwined. It's like a tapestry, which is what long distance hiking, especially. I don't know anyone who hasn't been impacted, forged really good friendships. It's all about the community of hikers, ultimately. Um,
Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly. When I first started through hiking, I didn't realize that was a thing, that there was an outdoor community, a through hiking community. When I had someone read my manuscript for the second book, they said the one thing I got out of it is that this book is about community. And I said, yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
I love that. And coincidentally, I interviewed a lady for the podcast last week, and it actually came out yesterday. Amanda Black, who runs a company called the Solo Female Travel Network. And we actually ended up talking about the fact that I've heard this from other people too. They'll take people all over the world. She has traveled all over Africa, South America, literally seen the seven wonders of the world with groups. But then, being a good business owner, she will survey the people that went on the trip about what worked, what didn't, what was your favorite moment. And I don't want to put words in her mouth, certainly, but I've heard that it comes as a surprise when people are like, yeah, Machu Picchu was great, but the friendships I forged on the trip was my favorite thing, and nobody expected that. They
Yeah.
were going to see somewhere and ended up that was almost second place.
I mean, we as humans, we need other humans. I didn't realize that until I was always a people person, but when I hit the AT, that's when I was like, whoa, there's something about humanity that you don't really get in the busy,
Hmm.
in the quote unquote real world. When you step
Right.
back, you're doing something out of the ordinary and you're just focusing on that and everyone around you is doing the same thing. It just changes your perspective of people.
Yeah. And I find that to be an unexpected thread through my podcast when I talk to people from all walks of life. It
Mm-hmm.
always boils back down to the people, whatever it is they're doing, wherever they are.
Yeah, and I think that's why my first book was a success, and I hope this one follows. Is that I love writing about dialogue because I love the conversations I had on the trail, and yeah, just people like to see the how strangers and people from different parts of the country, even the world, are just connected, and the conversations we have, and the laughs, and the experience is just.
Yeah,
it's a great thing, man.
it's a beautiful thing. I mean, we have
Yeah.
both attended two different trail days together,
Hmm.
one in Virginia, one in Oregon. And you're right, it's that sense of community. There's an immediate bond there to where I certainly feel I could just go up and talk to anybody.
Yeah.
Um, and it's something I've felt during various hikes. The sort of irony of when you're on the trail, it's an immediate icebreaker. You're there with your brothers and sisters on a hike, but sometimes
Hmm.
100 yards away there's a busy road, and you would never dream of talking to somebody you're passing walking through Brooklyn, where you're from. You just kind
Yeah.
of keep your head down and mind your own business. And I think about that a lot.
Yeah.
Just
I'm so grateful for that too.
hmm
My life is so much better because of it. I've met people that I would have never have met or hung out with on the trail, and it's just a blessing. It's something I always say that it should be mandatory for people to do a through hike, not necessarily the AT or the longer one, just a few weeks out there
yeah,
of the outdoors and meeting people, because it should be a part of your life.
yeah. I mean, I that's something I do a couple of times a year. I try to go for a 100-mile hike somewhere because
Yeah,
I meet really interesting people. I've never not met fascinating people, but
yeah.
man, it's good for the soul. Man, it's good to have that emotional reset.
You and I got to do a through hike or a backpacking trip this year.
I'm in. I'm in.
I'll be
Um,
I'll be in Texas this year for my
That's
book tour.
right. Come on down, and there's a few good ones knocking around. I've never done Eagle Rock Loop that's in Arkansas, but it's a few hours drive from me.
Let's
Um,
do it.
yeah,
Let's do it.
it looks like a cool one. Sign me up. But speaking of the trails, if we go back to the actual CDT, in
Mhm.
my head, and tell me if I'm wrong here, it's a little less defined, a little more unpredictable than other trails might be. Is that true? And did that kind of uncertainty change or shape your experience on that trail in particular?
It's true, yes. Unlike the AT, the Continental Divide Trail is a few different trails. You don't just stick to one trail. There's alternate trails that most hikers, about 99.9% of the hikers take, especially like the Gila River alternate section, where you could take a section that you're crossing a lot of the same river several times and you're just surrounded by cliff dwellings. It's beautiful. Or you can just hike the CDT where none of that is there, and people do the alternate. So, and then there may be fires, forest fires, or weather that you have to do road walking. There's a lot of road walking on the
Right.
continental. Not all of it is connected by trail. So I was weary at first because I read somewhere that I should expect to be lost an hour a day every day on the Continental Divide Trail. That said, I think that was before the app was out. We have now the Far Out app, and that helped a lot. Once I figured out how to use it, it was my first time using an app. Once I figured it out, it was a bit easier. I still get turned around, so um, it doesn't
hmm
matter. It just happens. But to have the app made it kind of a bit more comfortable for me, and I was able to backtrack if I went the wrong way. So that was the one thing I was thinking. Okay, this is a longer trail, of almost 1,000 more miles than the AT. It's harder. I just took it one step at a time and solved problems as they came up. And like you read in the book, on the first day I had a problem. So
Right, right. Yeah, I didn't know if I should say, but yeah, I've read the book. It's fantastic, man. I
thank
will be recommending this to anyone who will listen.
you.
Um, I was thinking this morning before we started what questions to ask you and
Mhm.
where to go with this conversation. And I think this question could go one of two ways. I was wondering if you could walk one section of the CDT again, which section would it be and why? Because it could have been one you perhaps had to, go around or skip, or there was a fire, or was one particularly breathtaking, impactful. If there
Oh
was a
man,
small stretch to do again.
I would say I would do the glaciers again in Montana. It was like the last
Hmm.
section. It's so beautiful. I would do that again. I would go back. There's two sections, that one, and then I would go back and do the Southern San Juans because I wasn't able to hit the mountain section of it because we were there too early and the snow was too bad. And all the hikers that were, I even took a week off to kind of let the snow melt, and thought it would be safer for all of us to hike, but we just couldn't. And
Right.
during that time, everyone that was through hiking had to take the alternate route below, which is just as beautiful. Well, maybe not just beautiful, but it was still beautiful. And you could see the top of the mountains from a distance and stuff. But yeah, I would do that. I would do those two sections again.
I love that. Um, Something else I was thinking about this morning was some universal truths about long distance hiking. We've talked about community and people. And something else I tend to find is true is people start these long distance hikes with questions. That question could be very deep and internal. It could be, what's my next career move? Can I do this? Is this for me? A range of questions. And I was wondering, now that both your hike and the book are finished, what questions do you still have? Or did you enter the trail with, or enter the publishing and writing of the book with, that may still linger? Or do you have new questions for the next section of your life?
Yeah, I would say it was 10 years after the AT, and I wasn't sure. Also, few months before I started the Continental Divide Trail, I attempted to do the long trail, and and in 2 days into that through hike, I got off because my water filter was not working correctly, and I was drinking contaminated water. I was drinking beaver dam water, which is probably the worst water you can drink.
Right, right.
And after that, it left me a little shook, and I thought, can I still do this? And then something inside me felt like one, it was time for me to do another through hike and to see if I can do it after all this time, and to kind of get up. I most of my stories in both of my books are about getting knocked down and then dusting yourself off and trying to figure out how you can move forward and make the best out of a situation. And I think that's what I wanted to do with the Continental Divide Trail. I was very uncertain. I wasn't sure why I was doing it, but what I did know was that I wanted to at least try and maybe have a story for to share with others of how, again, I got knocked down and was able to
Hmm.
get up and move forward and be successful at whatever goal I wanted for that time.
I love that. And I think that ties into really my final question I'd written down for you today, which
Mhm.
is, what do you hope this book gives readers permission to do in their own lives, whether that's on the trail or off?
I think it's the same as the first book. What I've got from people saying that now they're inspired either to do a through hike or to get out there and hike or to do something out of the ordinary. And I think this second book echoes the first one. New adventures, um, new amazing people, but same humor, same way of telling a story, um, but just a lot more of it.
I love it. And then, as we've talked about right at the beginning, your book is released today, which is very exciting. Where can people find it, support you? What's the best way to get a copy of this book in their hands and then become part of the, I like to think of it as the unlikely community? Yeah.
Um, you can, yeah, you can buy anywhere you buy your favorite books. You can get it Barnes and Noble, Amazon, small indie books. You can get it on my website, dereklugo.com. Um, yeah, in, anywhere you get books. While I'm
Anyway,
on the
guys.
road, I think it would be more beneficial if you want signed copies to get it on my website. But other than that, yeah, anywhere you feel comfortable getting your books.
Awesome. And I got to know you through your first book, and I purchased a signed copy, and I'd highly recommend that because that's something I think, many, many years down the line, what are my kids going to be left with to clear out of my house when I'm gone? And I've told them if the book is not signed, with one or two exceptions, give it to charity, sell it, do what you want. But if
Yeah,
it's signed for a reason. So
yeah.
hold on to those ones. Even if you don't like it, you're not allowed to throw it away. So I'd highly recommend going through DerekLugo.com. I mean, you're on what, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. You can be
Yeah.
found on all these places, right?
Yes, all of them. I focus more on Instagram, but my Instagram goes straight to my Facebook, and I've been doing TikTok as well. So yeah.
Yeah, I love it. Well, I can't wait to get a physical copy of this book in my hands and read it, and I'll be sharing it with everyone who cares to listen about a
I
fabulous through
appreciate
hike.
you. Thank you, brother. I appreciate you.
Absolutely, man. Derek, thank you so much for joining me again. It's been a pleasure as always.
Thank you for having me, brother.
Absolutely. Thank you again to this week's guest, and I hope today's episode was as enjoyable for you as it was for me, and perhaps even inspired your next adventure. If you did enjoy the show, please be sure to subscribe, leave a review, or follow us wherever you get your podcasts. You can find more information at theoutdoorseyeducator.com or follow us on Instagram, TikTok, or Facebook. Until next time, thank you so much for listening to the Outdoorsy Educator Podcast.